You're listening to the Agentic Engineer podcast, weekly AI agent intelligence for builders. I'm your host, and with me as always is my co-host. Let's get into it.
Okay, issue 2. And this week is kind of wild. Researchers analyzed over 2,000 Claude Code responses and basically mapped out what the default developer stack looks like when an AI picks it.
Yeah, and that's not even the craziest part. Anthropic got designated a supply chain risk by the Department of War and then separately dropped their flagship safety pledge. Same week.
Same week. We'll get into that. Plus, Mercury 2 hit 1,000 tokens per second using diffusion, and there's a paper on a model that can actually explain why it generated each token. Lots to cover.
So let's start with the big one. Amplifying AI ran this study where they pointed Claude Code at real repositories 2,400 times with open-ended prompts and just tracked what it chose. Every library, every service, every tool.
And the headline finding is kind of fascinating. In 12 out of 20 categories, Claude Code wrote custom code instead of pulling in a dependency. It builds over buys.
Which honestly tracks with how most senior engineers think. The best dependency is the one you don't have.
Sure, but here's where it gets interesting. When it does pick tools, the preferences are really sharp. GitHub Actions won CI/CD with 94% share. Stripe took payments at 91%. shadcn/UI dominated component libraries at 90%.
Those aren't surprising individually, but the consistency is what got me. Claude Code isn't hedging. It has strong opinions.
And the generational shifts are the real story. Newer Claude models pick newer tools. Drizzle is replacing Prisma as the default ORM. Railway is showing up where AWS used to be automatic. Bun is eating into Node share.
So the model isn't just reflecting current popularity. It's tracking momentum. And that creates a feedback loop that I think people are underestimating.
Explain that.
A junior dev spins up a project with Claude Code. Claude picks Drizzle. That dev didn't choose Drizzle over Prisma. Claude chose it for them. Multiply that across thousands of developers. More projects use Drizzle. The training data reflects Drizzle, and Claude picks it even more confidently next time.
So coding agents are becoming kingmakers for developer tools. That's a big claim.
It's not a claim, it's just math. If the dominant coding agent recommends your tool by default, you win. If it doesn't, you're fighting uphill. The new SEO is agent optimization, and nobody has a playbook for it yet.
Here's my favorite detail, though. Claude Code almost never picks Claude as an API dependency. When it needs an LLM integration, it reaches for OpenAI's SDK more often. Anthropic's own agent doesn't default to Anthropic.
Huh, that's either very honest or very embarrassing. Maybe both.
All right, quick hits. And the first one is a doozy. Anthropic got designated a supply chain risk by the Department of War.
Dario Amodei published a public statement pushing back. But then, separately, Time reported that Anthropic quietly dropped its flagship safety pledge. 2 body blows in 1 week.
The Hacker News thread hit 2,800 points and over 1,000 comments. People are not happy.
I mean, this is the company that built its entire brand on being the safety-first AI lab. That was the pitch. That was why people chose Claude over GPT. And now both pillars are cracking at the same time.
I actually disagree that this is surprising. Every AI company was going to face this eventually. You can't stay principled and move fast in a market where your competitors are raising $100 billion.
Speaking of which, OpenAI raised $110 billion at a $730 billion valuation, one of the largest private funding rounds in history.
That values OpenAI higher than most countries' GDP. The war chest signals massive infrastructure build-out. This is a bet that the agent platform race is winner take most.
And if you're Anthropic watching that number, you understand why safety pledges start looking like luxuries.
Next up, Mercury 2 from Inception Labs. We mentioned the 1,000 tokens per second number, but let's talk about why that matters for agents specifically.
So Mercury 2 uses diffusion-based generation instead of autoregressive decoding. Instead of generating 1 token at a time, it refines an entire response in parallel. 1,000 tokens per second on Blackwell GPUs, priced at 25 cents per million input tokens.
When each step in your agentic loop costs less time and money, you can afford more steps. More reasoning, more tool calls, more retries. the quality ceiling goes up.
Skyvern's CTO called it at least 2x faster than GPT 5.2. That's a bold comparison.
Bold, but backed by benchmarks. This isn't replacing frontier models for complex reasoning, but for the 80% of agent calls that need to be fast and good enough. This changes the economics.
2 more quick ones. Claude Code got remote control. You can now programmatically orchestrate Claude Code sessions from external tools and scripts.
So Claude Code goes from a standalone tool to a composable building block. Expect a wave of Claude Code as a back-end projects.
And Simon Willison published a piece arguing that writing code is cheap now. The bottleneck has shifted to design, review, and taste. If you're still optimizing for typing speed, you're solving last year's problem.
499 comments of heated agreement on that one. I think he's right, but I also think a lot of developers don't want to hear it. Your value isn't in the keystrokes anymore. It's in knowing what to build and whether it's any good.
That's uncomfortable for people who spent years getting fast at writing code.
Uncomfortable and true. Those aren't mutually exclusive.
All right, paper breakdown. This week we're looking at Stirling 8B from Guide Labs. And this one is genuinely cool.
So what is it? It's an open-weights 8 billion parameter model that can explain why it generated any given token, and not a post hoc explanation bolted on after the fact. The interpretability is baked into the architecture.
Right now, when your agent makes a bad decision, you're stuck reading tea leaves. You look at the prompt, look at the output, and guess what went wrong in between. Stirling gives you a window into the actual decision process.
How does it work technically?
The model maintains an internal attribution map that tracks which input features influenced each output token. Think of it as attention on steroids. Instead of just knowing which input tokens the model looked at, you get a causal chain. This input concept led to this intermediate representation, which led to this output choice.
Okay, but it's 8 billion parameters. Nobody's running production agents on 8B models in 2026.
True, and that's the catch. The real value is proving the technique works. If someone scales this to 70B+, you'd have agents that can genuinely explain their reasoning, not just generate plausible-sounding explanations after the fact.
For anyone building agents in regulated spaces, finance, healthcare, anything with compliance requirements, this is the gap between a prototype and a product you can actually ship. The gap between the model said X and the model said X because Y.
Exactly. Time saved on this one. For minute read versus 28-minute paper. 7x compression.
Tool of the week. CLIHub. And this one is immediately useful.
So if you're running MCP servers, Model Context Protocol, every session starts by dumping the full JSON schema tool catalog into context. That's roughly 15,000 tokens before your agent does anything useful.
15,000 tokens just for the menu. That's insane.
CLIHub converts MCP servers into CLI tools with lazy loading discovery. Instead of loading every tool definition up front, the agent discovers tools on demand. The result, 94% fewer tokens at session start.
Now Anthropic has their own tool search feature that gets you 85% savings, but it only works with Claude models. CLIHub works with any model and any MCP server.
The trade-off is a small latency hit on first tool use from the lazy load, but you save tokens on every single session. If you're running agents with more than 5 MCP tools, this pays for itself immediately.
I installed it after reading the newsletter. npm install -g CLIHub, CLIHub init, and you're converting servers in seconds. Simple idea, clean execution. The 94% number is real.
If you're paying for tokens, install this today. That's the verdict.
Agent index time. Weekly star tracker.
OpenClaw still on top at 247,000 stars. The lobster reigns. Gained nearly 2,000 stars since last week.
The interesting story this week is the TypeScript agent space heating up. Mastra at 21.6K and Versal AI SDK at 22.3K are neck and neck as the go-to TypeScript frameworks.
Meanwhile, the Python side is still dominated by the big four. LangChain, AutoGen, Llama Index, Crew AI. Although AutoGen is basically in maintenance mode now that Microsoft is pushing their agent framework.
OpenAI Agents SDK crossed 19K in its first weeks. That's serious developer interest for a brand new framework.
And Strand's SDK from AWS is still early at 5.2K, but it has native MCP support and multi-provider backing. One to watch.
Hot take time. And this one ties back to the Anthropic story.
Go for it.
Anthropic getting designated a supply chain risk in the same week they dropped their safety pledge is not a coincidence. It's a preview. Every AI company is going to face this choice. Stay principled and get regulated anyway, or drop the principles and move fast.
I don't know if I fully agree with that framing. There's a middle ground between safety theater and no safety at all.
Is there though? Anthropic tried door number 1 for 3 years. They were the responsible ones. They published their safety cases. They had the pledge. And they ended up in the exact same place as everyone else. Designated a risk, under pressure, making compromises.
That's fair. The responsible AI era didn't end with a bang. It ended with a press release and a shrug.
The companies that survive the next 2 years won't be the safest or the fastest. They'll be the ones that figured out how to ship product while keeping regulators just calm enough to not pull the plug.
That's not inspiring.
No, but it's what's actually happening.
That's a wrap for issue 2 of the Agentic Engineer podcast. Subscribe to the newsletter at theagenticengineer.waltsoft.net and follow us on YouTube at the Agentic Engineer Pod.
Share it with a friend who's building with agents. We'll be back next week. Until then, keep building.